Good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Education. It's on. Hello?
There you go.
Yep. This meeting is now called to order. Dr. Turner, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Hull?
Here.
Dr. Blau?
Here.
Ms. Smith?
Here.
Ms. Heinrich?
Here.
I myself, President. Ms. Weems?
I'm here.
Donna Walker, absent.
Thank you. You have a
Thank
quorum.
you. We have a quorum. We will now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and we have some special guests, the Brown and Rose family, who are going to come and lead us in the pledge, which means that you stand behind that podium right there, and when you start, we're going to follow.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great job. Thank you, Jackson. We will now move to recognitions.
Thank you, and good evening. At this time, I would like to invite and welcome Miss Allison Robinson, our Director of School Safety and Athletics, up to the lectern to recognize, and we'll get started on our winter sports athletic recognitions from our FPS student athletes. Welcome, Allison.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you to the board for having me here tonight. I appreciate it. And thank you to the full house that we have here this evening. This is one of my favorite events to look forward to get to recognize our high school athletes. Tonight we're here to celebrate our winter athletes. And I brought with me Mr. Mike Cahill and Miss Stacy Punzel, our athletic coordinators at the high schools. I'll turn it over to them in just a second. But I first want to say thank you to a few different groups. As the parent of 2 high school athletes myself, I know how much work it is when you're a parent, you're a friend, you're a grandpa, a grandma, an auntie, an uncle, whoever it is, getting those team dinners, paying those fees, getting everybody to practices, cancellations, coming out and showing up and supporting your student athlete. So I just want to say thank you very much to all those of you that are here in support of our athletes tonight. They would not be here without you, so let's give ourselves a round of applause. And of course, we're also here to celebrate our coaches. Many of you all work with them day to day, everyone that's here. They put in countless hours above and beyond to improve themselves, to improve their practice, and to improve your athletes' experiences. None of us would be here tonight without them either. So a round of applause, please, to all of our wonderful coaches who are here this evening. And last but not least, we'll clap for them in a second, obviously, our athletes themselves. It's no easy feat to keep up your grades, to be a high school student, as well as balancing athletics that comes along with being a student athlete. It's very difficult. We're proud of all of you for putting your heart and soul into your sport, for representing your high schools and our district as well. So thank you. And all right, we'll applaud for you fine as a group. Now, as you know, we have spring sports going on right now. There's a lot of students who unfortunately could not be here tonight because of that. We're still going to recognize them. We'll still, say their names and their awards. But if their team couldn't come or their individuals couldn't come, then the coaches will have Mr. Cahill and Miss Punzel speak on their behalf. So I'm excited to get started. So let's see who's first. So I'm gonna call it Mr. Cahill, and he'll introduce our coach.
Yes, I'd like to echo what Allison said about thank you for the board for giving us the opportunity to recognize these wonderful student athletes. Thank you to the parents. I'm a just retired sports parent. My younger son just finished his last season, so I sympathize with all the driving that you're doing and the carpooling. So thank you. It's not possible without you. I'm so grateful for our coaches. Makes my job just really a joy to do, and they make my life a lot easier. And they really represent the school and what we're about. and what the district's about, I think, beautifully. So I'm very grateful and fortunate to have this, the coaches you're going to meet tonight, and for the athletes. You guys represent, you guys and girls, you young men and women represent our school and our district the right way, and we're just very proud of you and thrilled to be able to acknowledge you. I'm not going to spoil the coaches' what they're going to be talking about tonight, but a little preview, a little minor spoiler. We're going to see multiple all-state athletes in multiple sports. We're going to hear about a division champion program this winter, as well as a district champion. So without further ado, let's bring up our district champion head coach for the boys basketball team, Mr. Byron Johnson.
Good evening. I didn't know that I was going to be first, so I would have trying to write some notes down, and it's a little old school. The kids pull out their phone, but I just want to say congratulations to all the athletes and coaches. The job that we do sometimes feels thankless, but it's rewarding every day. I love to be able to help change the lives of young men and help them reach their goals. As Mr. Cahill spoke, this is my second year at Farmington. I'm sorry, I'm Byron Johnson, head boys basketball coach at Farmington High School. This is my second year here. I think a couple of highlights. We finished 20-6 this year. I'm pretty sure, I think that's the most wins that we've had, at least in the last 15 years. We won a district championship, which was really exciting. The first time, I think, since 2018, which was a big deal. And then we were able to split games with our rival, the other school down the street, who have, as I've heard, have really kicked our butt for a lot of years. So it was good to be able to get a little get back this year. But we were privileged to have 4 all-league players this year. Our kids, they work really hard. They're trying to get me to figure out when to get back started already, even though, we don't start till November. But it just shows how passionate and how much work they like to put in. We have also a variety of multi-sport athletes, which is a big deal. We try to encourage that. But first, I think I see only one of them is here right now, so I'll do him first. This guy was ended up being our leading scorer this year. He was probably the most consistent player we had all year. He actually started. He was a 5-quarter guy last year. Starting towards the middle of the year last year, and he has not disappointed ever since. He's one of the hardest working kids. I think he played 3 positions also in football, which just kind of shows you his dedication. He's really been getting it done in the classroom, which is one thing we really try to hold the kids accountable for. Mr. Anthony Bailey, all league. Come on. Try to be bashful now. He loves to talk, and when we're in meetings, he loves to suggest what we should do. Coach, I'm sure he's probably be a future coach, but this guy also played quarterback, power forward, small forward, shooting guard, center, everything we need him to do. Corner and safety. So he is a big deal, and the future looks bright. He will be returning next year also. Okay, and then the other kids who are at least not here right now, Daniel Beer, he's our starting point guard, also a 2-year starter. He was an all-league kid. He was led us in assists. He was second in scoring. Randy Rice was honor mention all-league. He is also a 2-year starter. He's our defensive stopper. He's assigned to guard the other team's best perimeter player each game. This is actually his second. He's a 2-time all-league player. And then Miles Smith, who is also a multi-sport athlete, plays offense and defense on football. He led us in rebounding this year with 7 rebounds, and then he upped that in the state tournament at 11 rebounds a game. So, and I think we have four returning starters. So, Yes, future looks bright for Farmington basketball. So thank you all, appreciate it.
And I forgot to mention, we'll do photos right after the presentation, so parents, don't be shy if you want to come on up and grab a photo. Don't worry, this is your night too.
Okay. Yeah, it's all right. Okay, next up, I'd like to invite Coach Natalie Yarber up to the mic. Girls basketball.
I always have to adjust the mic a little bit shorter than everybody else. My name is Natalie Yarber, girls basketball coach at Farmington High School. This is my second season with the program. Just a tremendous year of growth for us. So all my girls out here, if you want to come on up, come on, get up, get up, get up. Come up here, stand at the front. This way.
She's going up and go left, Coach.
Hey, there we go.
Let's go up.
Yeah, stand up there. They want to see you, not me. So same thing like Coach Johnson said, we have a bunch of multi-sport athletes on our team as well, so busy with spring sports tonight. I prefer indoor sports. It's way too cold out there for me. So we got some softball and track kids that couldn't be here tonight. But again, just very, very proud of our girls. Last season, my first season taking over the program, we went 1-22. And this year we finished as league champs in the II.A. Gold. So, yes. Just super proud of that. I think in today's culture, it's very easy to just kind of shut down and quit when you go through a losing season like that. And we had some very rough games last year, feeling that over and over and over again. And we just kind of kept telling them, keep putting in the work, stay at it. And they did. They worked their butts off. We had a great off season, returned a bunch of kids. So super excited about that, proud of them, and also looking forward to our future. We had, out of 12 girls, 8 II.A. scholar athletes and a team GPA of 3.7. So also super proud of that. Being a teacher in the high school, that's something that is really important to me as well. So very proud of them. And then on top of that, we had 3 all-league kids this year. First one, sophomore Sydney Nogus. So Sydney also was all-league last year as a freshman, our only representative all-league from the II.A. So super proud of her for running it back again this year, representing us at that level. And then we also have all-league sophomore Kate Martin. Kate really took off this year, was our team MVP as well, leading scorer, led us in every single stat, I believe. So proud of her, again, only as a sophomore. And then our third all-league player who is not here tonight because she is also a track athlete, Eddie Marie King, who's one of our senior captains who also received that all-league nomination. So, yeah. Again, we are super excited for the future of basketball on the girls' side as well, and looking forward to return 10 out of our 12 players next year. So, thank you.
All right. Okay, next up, I'd like to invite Drew Hans, boys swim and dive coach.
Thank you very much. Good evening. It was another good year for us. I've been the coach now for about 10 years. And last year, We had our best showing of second at state meet. This year it was going to be difficult to do that, but these three seniors here, who are a huge part of it last year, were determined to get to that top again, and we were fourth this year, which was a really nice showing for us, our second trophy in the case, so that was real cool. We were second in county meet. Overall, it's an end of an era for these three. They've been varsity swimmers now for 4 years. They were my three captains this year, and I've known them since they were 7 and 8, and I'll be sorry to see them go, but I'm sure they'll stick back around in the summer times and stuff. So, Jack Tomlinson was a 3-time All-State 200 free relay that he was a part of. He's also All-American. That's a top 100 times in the country. He was also in the 50 and the 100 free All-State. Luke Morden was All-State in the 100 back and the 100 free, and a part of that All-American relay that won the state meet, and All-State in the medley relay as well. And Paul DiMartini was All-State in the 100 fly, the 200 IM, was an All-American in that relay that won the state meet, and in the 2 medley relay as well. So there's going to be a big hole left for when these guys go next year, but one of our captains for next year's here, Takari, stand up. He's the future of our team, so it's looking bright. So thanks, guys.
Okay, our last program represented tonight is wrestling, and I'd like to invite Coach Ben Joswiak up.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ben Joswiak. I'm the wrestling coach at Farmington. As a coach, it's always a great thing to see your guys and gals. They do great on things on the mat, but something that I found out really this year more than ever was that I'm even more proud of them when I see the young men and women that they become. And there should be 4, but 3 up here are definitely great young men and will continue to do great things. Phil is going to be an Eagle Scout. Took all county, which is very tough to do. A lot of people say the county meet is harder than the state meet, so placing the county meet is very impressive. Sammy is a freshman, took all league champion. We all talk as coaches in the wrestling community, and the first time Sammy lost to this guy pretty well, and second time Sammy beat him, but their coach came up to me and said, that was a fluke, he was injured. Third time at the league finals, when Sammy handily beat him, I went up to their coach afterward and said, yeah, it really seems like a fluke. As a freshman league champion, nothing to scoff at. Jacob, all county, all league, state qualifier, our first one since 2018. Extremely proud of this kid. Again, something I'm most proud of him though was at a regional meet, more than one coach and more than one referee came up to me and said, hey, you got a great kid there. Not just a wrestler, but I really wish I had a team full of kids like that. So as a coach, it warms my heart. And then Malachi, who could not be here tonight because he's doing lacrosse, another kid, one of the most responsible kids I've ever met. He would tell me things that I needed to do. I knew what I needed to do, but he would make sure that I knew. So for these guys, awards or, okay, all right.
Good job, Coach. Okay, that's a wrap for Farmington solo. We'll come back for the United in a minute, but I'd like to introduce Stacy Punzel, athletic coordinator at North Farmington.
All right, thank you so much for the opportunity tonight to present our winter athletes from North Farmington. I always dread going after Mike Cahill. He has this DJ voice, this spirit, this presence at the microphone, and it's, one day I'm going to go first. So let's talk about North Farmington a little bit. A lot of our athletes are spring athletes and not going to be here tonight. A couple of our coaches are also not here. So that being said, I'm going to embarrass our kids just a little bit. I'll give you a quick preview. Boys basketball is a heated up rivalry in Farmington now. So we have finally found that rivalry. I should talk this way. After many years of being lopsided one way or the other, we have now found that rivalry. So that's going to be the ticket in town next year. So I'm excited about that. We have a couple all-state athletes, and I believe we also have a city championship this year. So I'm going to start with boys basketball. So I know both Rob Smith and Connor Brown are here, so come on up, guys. So you guys can stand right here. So I know the coach isn't here tonight, and I cannot do the same justice because I don't have the stats and I don't carry this, but these are team leaders. I'm so excited to watch this team. You guys are like a small college. Your system, the way you play, the effort, I should say, the time that is put in by winter athletes, to me, is tremendous. It's a 5-month season. It's a long season. It includes Saturdays. So I am so impressed with our winter athletes, and I know that you guys even practice on Sundays. And so putting in that hard work shows on the floor. Both Rob and Connor were all league athletes this year, but Rob Smith hit a special plateau this year. I have to embarrass you just a little bit. He is a 1,000-point winner, or 1,000-point earns this year. So it's a very, very, what should I say? I don't even have the right words for it. It's an accomplishment that doesn't come along very often, and so it needs to be celebrated. And so we will find a way at North Farmington to highlight that up on the wall. So maybe someday his kids can come back and look at that. All right, congratulations, you two. So Rob. All right, our next team is girls basketball. The girls, attending every basketball game, I think but one, for the girls, seeing the growth from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. Watching them, as the coach calls plays, they're like, oh, okay, and then they'll go, and then he'll call another play, and you can see the wheels turning in their head and them thinking and learning, and by the end of the season, they were rolling. Next year, we join Farmington in the gold division, so we will find another rivalry, in-town rivalry, so that'll be exciting. Our coach is not here tonight because our player is not here tonight, so I would like to honor Haley Webley. She is a 9th grader, shows a lot of potential, excited to see her come back, and she is our sole all-league for girls basketball this year. All right, so now we're going to co-ed wrestling. So come on up, guys. Can you stand over here? All right. Coach Aaron was supposed to be here tonight, so I'm not going to do this the same justice, but this is where we have a lot of accolades this year, so I'm going to embarrass a couple of them. I'm going to start, well, first I should say, city champs, congratulations, so that's a big deal. So in wrestling, there's a lot of different levels of awards. We have league champions, all league, but we also have a couple all-state. So I'm going to start with Lorelei. She is our first female wrestler, and she is a 2-time all-state wrestler. So congratulations. And also academic all-state. Arturo Wilson, AJ, is a league champion, a county champion, but also an all-state wrestler this year as well. And so that accomplishment, in addition to his 100 pins, right? 100 pins? All right. So that's just like, that's the equivalent in basketball of 1,000 points. That's a big deal. And so also a special shout out to that because that is very unusual. And we will find a way to put that up on the wall to honor you and have that legacy shown in the future. Congratulations. One of our senior co-captains, Dan Kelly, you can see that he's already had postseason surgery, so he's on the mend. He is a league champion this year, so congratulations, Dan. Not here tonight, Dominic Diego is a league champion, and another co-captain, Zach Kelski, is a all-league wrestler this year. So we had several accolades in wrestling, and again, 6 days a week. These guys, their tournaments are on Saturdays. They work really, really hard. I have a lot of respect for you guys. I should say thank you to your parents as well for hauling you all over. So thank you. Congratulations. So. All right, I'm going to let Mr. Cahill speak, but we have two of our unified teams left. So Farmington United Gymnastics is up next.
Okay, Farmington United Gymnastics had another typically awesome season. They are consistently, I think, one of the most dominant programs in the state in their sport. Was it? Yep. Yeah, so I got to attend one of my first gymnastics meets this year, and it's really something else. Again, I don't want to spoil but if you look at the top line there, really, really impressive feat by one individual, but as the team, they are consistently, it seems, always in the top 2 or 3 in the state with multiple state titles. So I'd like to invite the coach, Jeff Dwyer, up to speak about Bug.
Yeah, you can be here. Hi, I'm Jeff Dwyer. This is Nicole Dale. Been coaching for a while. Nicole used to be on the team. Now she's coaching. So, but these girls, you're looking at another really good team. We were 3rd in the state this year, and you guys are going to introduce yourselves. So we can start here. Say your name and what school you're at. Last names would be awesome, too. Thank you. And this is Nicole Dale. She teaches at North Farmington, and she's been coaching with me the past 10 years or so. So they not only took 3rd this year, they were regional champs. They were regional champs the last 3 years. If you're a senior or junior, seniors, raise your hand, the 4 seniors right now, because they've been a huge part of this program. We had our banquet last night, and they got a lot of awards that way. Last 3 years, they were 3rd in the state. We were state runner-ups last year by 0.2 of a point, and then we were 3rd place this year. So really, really nice job doing all that, you guys. It's awesome. As far as individuals go, let me just announce a few of these guys. We did really well on bars. So when they announced the state champions on bars, we had 4 or 5 girls up there. So Ayla, raise your hand real quick. Ayla was second in the state on the uneven bars. Sophia was 7th in the state on the bars. Bella, or Isabella, is, well, her mom wants me to say that, finally. She was 3rd in the state on bars. Aubrey Woodman, where are you? Okay. So Aubrey was state champ on bars this year and last year. And Leah Hodge, raise your hand. Leah, well, let me say it this way. So if you're an all-arounder, that means they accumulate all 4 events, and then, if you watch the Olympics, that's like the event, right? And so this year, Elena, you were all-state. You were 8th in the all-around. And Leah Hodge, I would say this. I've been doing this for 38 years, okay? So she's my #1 highest scoring gymnast. And I had to say it because she'd always ask me, am I your best gymnast? And I said, yeah, you are. You got to score it. And she is. Her all-around score this year broke the record since I've been around. Leah placed in everything. She was 1st on bars, 3rd on beam, 4th on floor, 2nd on vault, 1st in the all-around this year and last year. Okay. That hasn't happened, I think, since like 2011, 2012. So it's really, really hard to be back-to-back champion, and you should be really proud of that. So I'm really proud of these girls. They rock it every year. I'm going to miss the seniors. I want to thank the board, too, because we don't have a gym, so you support us. And please keep supporting us, okay? Because I do appreciate it. I know money doesn't grow on trees. So thank you, you guys. You rocked it this year. Thanks for showing up, okay? Oh, thank you. We got to get in? Okay.
Yes. Joe here? Joe's not here. Wait, these are... Okay, last up is our Farmington United hockey. I think Coach Dragotta is not here. Is that correct? Okay. So Coach Dragotta, I'll just be brief. He in his first year in the program, and it was a tough one. They had a lot of things that are out of their control, a lot of injuries, at key players at key times, but they just kept getting better as the year went on. I saw them grow and improve as the year goes on. As a coach, that's all we really want to see, is growth and improvement. Their playoff game was a heartbreaker. Lost in overtime. I think it was the last 12 seconds of the second overtime. Just a gut punch of a game, but they competed. Again, down a couple of important guys. So very proud of their effort, and I think the program's in good hands with Coach Dragotta. We will recognize, are the hockey players here? Okay, so academic all-state Nico Lott. Yeah, there we go. And then all-conference, all-OAA Brendan Erickson. Curtis Kent. Owen Sims. And then second team all-state, Brady Brink. Academic all-state for the team, so Farmington United Hockey. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, thanks again. Thank you to our athletes, to our families. Thank you to the board for allowing us this evening, and have a great night, folks.
Congratulations, everybody. We're going to take a 3-minute break. Yeah. Take a 3-minute recess. I wasn't.
Did you sit in my seat? Is that what you were doing? How was it?
We're going to get back started with our board meeting. Thank you all. Do we have everybody? Yeah. Okay, we will now move to reports from the student roundtable. Do we have a representative from the roundtable here today? Thank you.
Thank you for having me here today. My name is Hamdan Faisadi, and I'm the president of Student Roundtable, an organization that kind of works with the admin to help amplify the student body. So I wasn't able to come here for the past couple Board of Education meetings because of some logistic errors, but now I'm here and I want to talk to you guys about the career fair. So last year we put out our 2-year initiative to have a big career fair in the district, and we had over 500 students from the district come out with over 40 professions at North Farmington High School, and it was a huge success. So this year our main goal was to kind of refine it, make it better. Today we had an update from all the 4 committees during Student Roundtable, so I'll give you guys a little brief summary on that. The Physical Layout Committee basically mapped out and made a map for the entire gym and how it's going to look like, separating it by field. The Registration Committee sent out a sign-up for all the students to sign up, and they also started getting busing transportation all fixed out. The Marketing Committee started making posters, putting it on the school, putting announcements up, and they're also going to be making a video soon to be sent out to the listserv. And then finally, the Volunteer Acquisition Committee worked on getting 10 confirmed volunteers for the event. We also have 10 volunteers that are waiting confirmation. And the help we need from the Board of Education and anything else is to get more volunteers to help just talk about any careers they're in, if they have any job opportunities, internships, any volunteer positions. So there will be another Google form sent out in the listserv email. And if you guys could sign up, that would be greatly appreciated. The date is on April 25th from 9 to 11, and there's another shift from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Another topic agenda we had was the Mental Health Week. We're preparing for that for next year. We're trying to have a big Mental Health Week, and it'll end with a field day, hopefully, if everything works out, just for the students to try to relax and get more time, ease up for the beginning of the year. And then finally today we had our elections for the next year, where we picked up all the new 4 positions for PR, Secretary, Vice President, and President, and the new President-elect is going to be Sohan Patel from Farmington High School. That's all I have for me.
Very good. Any questions from board members? Yes.
I just wanted to suggest that for your mental health day that you're planning, I'd be happy to connect you with the Michigan School of Psychology. They're right here in Farmington Hills. They have lots of resources that they would be happy to share with you.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. We did have them at the career fair last year, and the students loved them, so that'd be really awesome if we can get in touch with them again.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I've been able to attend several of your meetings, the one today and the other one March 12th, and I just wanted to share with the board. I think I've shared before, and Mrs. Heinrich has been the representative before me. I think we all just think you guys are incredible students. I love the dialogue. I love the conversations. I love how you guys are striving to be welcoming and inclusive and all that sort of great stuff. What I also appreciate is how the tone of the meetings have sort of shifted lately to wanting to be more involved in policy. And I greatly appreciate that. I think that was the aim, actually, of Student Roundtable, was to have that connection to the school board. I've been having some conversations with Donald Walker, who also shares that and has been advocating for having some sort of student voice when it comes to policy. So I think we can work together to figure out how we can start to do that. So I know that that is an area where there have been conversations about policies that relate to students, including, cell phone policies and the senior year and the makeup of school and how we're reimagining high school. So I'm really looking forward to maybe adding, if you guys see fit, that piece of it to your agendas going forward so that we can hear directly from students like what impacts you, and so that we can share with you what's on our agenda as far as policy is concerned, so we can figure out where student voice is needed in those areas. So we appreciate you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for being a part of our meetings as well. We really appreciate having more input and more support from the admin as well. That's really helpful to us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Could I share one more thing?
Yes.
I just came from the National School Board Association conference in Atlanta, where elevating student voice was a big topic. I attended several conversations where they talked about the various ways in which students in different districts are doing that, whether it's a student advisory council. No one else had bragged a lot about our our student roundtable. No one else has something quite like that in the nation that I heard about. So I shared with him the example of what you and your fellow students are doing, what our district is doing to be so inclusive of so many voices, and the monthly meetings with the superintendent and board members. And I also brought back a lot of information for our board to consider around possibly having some additional student voice at the board table. So maybe at our next retreat, we can talk about that. But your ears were probably buzzing because I was talking a lot about how awesome you are.
Thank you so much.
Yes, celebrating your work.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
We will now move to items from the president. If I could get a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Support.
Motion made by Dr. Turner and supported by Mrs. Heinrich to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes. Thank you very much. We will now move to announcements. I have a few. It's been a while, but I'll try to keep it quick. First, very proud of the Hack Box. I know that you guys competed in the first robotic state tournament. I followed over the weekend and noticed that you guys had a strong performance, but I will be honest, I couldn't follow the point system, so I'm very interested to hear how things went. I know that we've been having some discussions about STEM facilities and STEM programming. As you know, the district's been researching this for some time and came to the board with some options. We're looking forward to getting more information at our next board meeting, which I hope will also include a deep understanding of how the district identifies needs across the district. We've been asking that for a while now. Been focused on the structural stuff, the really not so glamorous HVAC and concrete and parking lots and all of that sort of stuff, but we really want to start thinking about programming and needs for areas like STEM and the arts and so forth. So I look forward to that discussion and outlining our process for prioritization. Had the really great privilege of attending Freaky Friday last Friday, I think it was. Oh, no, Saturday I went. But just wanted to lift up that we have an incredible arts program. The music program, I think I've mentioned it numerous times when I go to those concerts, whether it's orchestra or choir or jazz band or whatever it is. I mean, I would pay for those performances. They are great, and Freaky Friday did not disappoint. It was an outstanding musical. Congratulations to the entire team. And I wonder whether we might start recognizing, in addition to athletics, other areas like STEM and music and art and so forth and so on at the board table. I mentioned that earlier that I met with Student Roundtable today and last month, and we just had a report from them. Happy Principals Week, Assistant Principals Week. We know that assistant principals are pretty dedicated folks and they work tirelessly managing very unpredictable challenges on a daily basis. I also want to take the time to recognize all of our staff. I know that everyone is working really, really hard, doing an incredible job. We have some amazing people. Battle of the Books will take place this Friday. I unfortunately will not be able to attend, but I know several board members will be in attendance, so thank you for that. I also wanted to take an opportunity around this springtime when I know a lot of our seniors start to get the itis, and some of our other folks, students, that kind of trickles downward. So parents, be alert. Make sure that your students are paying attention and behaving well in the classroom and studying. I would encourage you to use MyStar, which provides real-time information about your child's grades and attendance, and also houses NWEA data. I also want to make sure that folks know that Canvas is our learning management system, and it's a way for you to kind of peek into, for middle school and high school, the curriculum and what your students are doing on a daily basis. For information on how to use these tools, it's on our website. Please take a look. I think it's really helpful to, check in with your students to make sure that they are continuing on the right path. I want to thank the district for pulling together a book study. Many of us, including those at the board table, are reading The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt, which argues that the widespread adoption of smartphones and social media in childhood, particularly after 2010, has led to a sharp increase in anxiety, depression, and other mental health issues amongst Gen Z, and calls for a societal shift in how we raise and educate children, advocating for reduced screen time, later smartphone adoption, and a return to more independent and real-world play. I know that several of our board members have been participating in that book study, and there's been a great amount of real good dialogue there. The next conversation is April 10th this week, so there's still an opportunity to join or at least listen. Maybe you can't read the whole book by Thursday, but maybe you can. I think that these are some very real-time, good conversations to have, especially since today we're going to have a policy discussion around cell phone use. Speaking of anxiety, wanted to take a brief moment just to talk about a few things that I'm hearing are causing some anxiety. Recent actions by the federal government have introduced significant uncertainties regarding educational funding. An executive order aims to dismantle the U.S. Department of Education, transferring responsibility to the states, raising concerns about the future of education funding. The DOE has retracted previously approved funding extensions, jeopardizing about $40 million in allocated funds for schools, and the administration has also threatened to withhold federal funds from schools implementing DEI inclusion programs, interpreting them as violating civil rights laws where schools must certify compliance to continue receiving aid. We don't have all of the answers. We continue to watch and monitor just like you, but here is where we are headed directionally so that we will be ready. We are advocating. Many of us at the board table are doing so. Some of us have signed on with dozens of others with letters to the government. We're staying informed, and we are keeping you informed as well. As soon as we know, we will let you know. We are also not acting too quickly. I don't think that's the best strategy given how things keep changing. I think we are intending to be proactive wherever that's possible. We're in the budget cycle now, and we have currently identified interdependencies with federal funding. Fortunately, we are not as reliant on federal funding as many other school districts are across Michigan, but we are impacted. As it relates to DEI, this is still an important area for us. We continue to be focused in this area because we believe that an inclusive environment and creating equity across our district is important. We've been pressing since the beginning of the school year on a DEI dashboard. We've added goals in this area to the superintendent goals, and we've been given several drafts already and been providing regular feedback a number of times, and I think it's really starting to come together. I'm getting excited about our dashboard there. I think we'll be able to bring it to the public in June. We've asked the district to start tracking questions and incidents related to hate speech and racial slurs. We previously didn't have a way to track this, but the district is focusing on that now. And we believe that we're making significant improvements. We look forward to sharing this with you in June, and we remain optimistic about how the trend continues in that area. I'm excited about our goals. We put together some goals at the beginning of the year. We're doing well on many of them, and I'm excited about reporting on that in June. On the subject of goals, I wanted to take a minute to congratulate Thomas Hull. Thomas Hull is now a certified board member. I'm going to give you a round of applause. Which means that now our board is once again a certified board. This was announced a few years ago, I want to say, for the first time ever. The Farmington Public School Board was an honor board is what it's called, and now, thanks to you, we are an honor board once more. I really, really appreciate that.
I didn't want to hold up anybody, so.
Thank you. And you did that in record time. Yeah, very, very good time. Thank you. That is commendable. Each of us has certifications, and many of us have advanced certifications. I was recently awarded the Master Diamond Award, but Mrs. Smith was the first to get to this very high level designation. It's a level 5 designation, so I want to congratulate you as well. And lastly, I wanted to mention that the board will soon begin its process of seeking candidates to appoint to the board, as Dr. Turner has shared that he graciously offered to support the board through June of this year. Thank you again, Dr. Turner, for your willingness to serve. I know you know full hand or full well that this is a commitment, and I appreciate and value your time and want to thank you again. April, May, and June are very busy months of the school year with testing, evaluations, contract discussions, graduation events, and so forth and so on. So we have to develop a timeline and figure out when we can hold meetings. But we're going to start the process of at least communicating to the community our time frame, and our time frame is that we want to make sure that we have an appointment process concluded by June. So we're going to start inviting folks to kind of understand what the process is. We may host, if people are interested, a session to learn a little bit more about what being a board member is. We will announce the application window or process. It will likely be about 2 to 3 weeks to allow people to submit the necessary information, and then we will conduct interviews. We can't tell you when those interviews are going to occur. I can tell you reasonably it'll be about end of April, May timeframe, likely. But we won't know until we know how many people are interested. If there are a large number of people interested, I know when I was appointed, there were 22 people. Dr. Turner and I were appointed at the same time. 22 people applied to the position. That means that we've got a lot more days of interviewing scheduled, and we haven't decided yet whether we're going to do a first round of interviews, a second round of interviews. We haven't decided yet what our process is. But I wanted to let you know that we're starting the process. And I'd encourage anyone who is interested to ask questions and really think about, serving our community. So with that said, that ends my report. We will now move to public comment. All right, so during public comment, members of the community are welcome to address the board. We ask that each community member be advised of our 3-minute time. There'll be a screen that will display your countdown. Please address your comments to the board and speak into the microphone onto the podium. If your comment is related to a student, staff member, or such, please use caution in stating names of individuals where protection of privacy would be appropriate. The board will respectfully listen to comments, but generally the board does not respond to public comment. In some cases, it might be appropriate for someone to follow up with you to address your concerns. First, we have Mr. Lubaway.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And I have a printed copy of what I'm going to speak to. At the February 11th board meeting, the board president suggested that 4 Trump executive orders be added to a retreat agenda. I looked at the April 8th retreat minutes and didn't see any mention of number 1, expanding educational freedom to support school choice. Number 2, ending racial indoctrination in public schools. Number 3, protecting women's sports. Number 4, restructuring the Department of Education. Maybe it's not too late to consider a citizen's comment. Number 1, school choice. In Michigan, we expect that the MEA Teachers Union and Democrats will continue to deny true school choice as they have done through the Blaine Amendment. The tide has begun to turn as 17 states have adopted voucher programs so that children can be taught the 3 R's in schools that improve educational outcomes and maintain parents' high moral standards. Number 2, racial indoctrination. The proclamation has disappeared from the district's website. Does that mean that it's no longer in effect? Number 3, protecting women's sports. Are these women now protected if the proclamation is null and void? Number 4, on the Department of Education, eliminating the U.S. Department of Education makes sense because it cannot demonstrate how it has improved the American education outcomes. Has it closed significant achievement gaps for poor kids? No. While we were at it, can the Michigan Department of Education explain how it has failed Michigan into 41st place among 50 states? Eliminate it. Ditto for the intermediate school districts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lovaway. Next, we have Sean Black.
Which one?
This one. They both say Sean Black.
Oh, okay.
Good evening, Board. On January 7th, I spoke at the board meeting regarding my concerns about the achievement gap in Farmington Public Schools. Subsequently, I met with Dr. Coughlin on March 7th, and we discussed the academic plan for Farmington Public Schools. I'm here this evening to ask the board several questions stemming from our meeting. And once again, I want to ask these questions before the board's community dialogue on student achievement scheduled for May 13th. I'm hoping that these questions can help guide the conversation, but also it will be great if the board could have answers to these questions. Before that, I just want to share a couple of things. With the student achievement gap, 70% of black students in grades 3 through 7 are reading below grade level on the M-STEP, 70%. On average, 74% of black students in grades 3 through 7 are performing math below grade level on the M-STEP as well. 88% of black students in the 11th grade are not college ready. We have to address that. So I have these specific questions for the board. I'll share these questions via email because I have the teacher in me found a couple typos, I'm sorry. I was trying to multitask as I was closing out my day at work. Question number 1. What specific measurable actions is the district taking to address students who are below grade level in reading and math during the school day? Keyword, during the school day. 2, how are Lexi and Dreambox expected to be utilized across the district? I asked this question because I've talked to teachers, and I'm not saying my children's teachers. I've talked to other teachers in the district. I've heard different answers, so that's why I'm asking this question. Are they intended to be predictors of success on the M-STEP? If so, has the district ever conducted a correlation analysis to verify the effectiveness of these software programs? My next question, the district has long used NWA. So my question is, has the district done a correlation analysis to determine the effectiveness of this assessment? My next question, how will the next year's school budget reflect student achievement data? Will it be the same budget that's rolled over from this current school year to next school year? How will Title I, 31A, and Title IV funds be used differently as a result of the student achievement data? My next question, what instructional leadership training have principals and assistant principals received as it relates to improving instructional quality? How are Title II funds being used? I asked this question because 99% of teachers are rated highly effective or effective for the past 2 years. My final question, never mind, it's about what's going to happen with the DEI, but Ms. Weems, you addressed it. My final seconds, as a former principal, I had to address the cell phone issue. I'll just give you my personal opinion. Take the cell phones out of schools because we had no fights after I took cell phones out of schools as a principal. 0.
Thank you, Dr. Black. And now, Sean Black.
So 4th graders through 5th graders have been doing book derby for 4 weeks now. It ended at March 21st, and then a few people have read 0 books all the way to 15. And then for 4, 8, and 12 books, you get special awards from the school. That's all I want to talk about.
What school?
Farmington STEAM Academy.
How did you read?
10.
Thank you for sharing. Is there any further public comment? Is there any further public comment? There is one more opportunity for public comment, so I'm going to close this public comment. And if anyone else is interested in public comment, you have another opportunity after discussion items. We will now move to items from the Secretary. Dr. Turner?
Thank you. The board has received communications regarding 3 subject areas. One is reading snapshots, below grade level examples and beyond basic community efforts. Second would be former FPS, Farmington Public Schools student, snowboarding success update, and lastly, in April, Farmington Public Schools IB news. The board acknowledges communications and responds when appropriate. A list of correspondence can be found in the board packet, accessible on the Farmington Public Schools website. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move to legislative update. Yes. Dr. Blau?
Okay. Yes, I attended the Government Relations Committee meeting as well as the OCSBA meeting, and Lisa Hansknecht, one of our government relations people at the county and state level, gave us some information. Among the things that have been happening in March are that the House approved several bills that ease barriers to certification, not in terms of lessening the requirements, but more so along the lines of expanding reciprocity for out-of-state teaching licenses to be reciprocal with the state of Michigan, and eliminating certification fees. So some of those kinds of barriers. Also, there's been a move to include preschool student teachers in the stipends that are being made available to those who are doing their student teachings to encourage more people to go into the field. There is some legislation being discussed. There's a 5-bill school safety package that's being discussed by the House committee. And there is this, I found especially encouraging. The Republican curriculum and assessment package has moved forward during the month of March. This is coming from the Education Committee. It's several Republican-sponsored curriculum and assessment bills that update the Michigan Merit Curriculum graduation requirements. Key changes include a new future skills graduation requirement, expanded course options for how to meet the graduation requirements, and a pilot program to explore alternatives to M-STEP as the primary way of measuring and reporting student learning growth each year, as well as mandates for structured literacy and revised math standards in early grades. So there is going to be a committee put together, if this goes through, to reevaluate the math standards in particular for the elementary grades. And that is all.
Thank you. We will now move to reports from board committees. Dr. Turner, do you have an update from the policy committee?
I do, thank you. On March 13th, we had a policy board governance committee meeting that happened. It was a brief meeting, and then I was able to touch bases with the committee members after the meeting to cover 4 areas, which of course we'll cover pretty extensively this evening. One was a data privacy for student update. We are still receiving information and updates as it relates to our current policy, privacy policy, and what beyond the FERPA compliance would require us to do. So once that is finalized, Miller Johnson, which is our policy development company, will begin working on policy amendments, and further updates will be provided to us at that point. So that's still ongoing. There's going to be some policy manual updates that we'll discuss a little bit later in the board meeting pertaining to a couple of areas. The last item was the Positive Culture Handbook. We had some review there, some discussion. I know President Weems is going to have some additional comments there, and some additional work will be done in regards to that. And the last was a future item, which is basically saying that we were going to push the Positive Culture Handbook to upcoming meetings. So that concludes our report. Thank you.
Thank you. We can now move to discussion items. We have 4. The first is a review of the 2025-26 budget parameters and assumptions. Ms. Kaminsky?
All right. Good evening, board members. This evening, we're going to review the budget timeline and the parameters and assumptions that we'll use to set our initial 25-26 budget. And this is just the beginning of that process. Over the next 2 months, hopefully we'll find out more information, more concrete information that we can build into the budget before that has to be set in June and approved. So at the March 11th board meeting, the board did approve the resolution to conduct the public hearing on the budget, and that is set for June 3rd. On June 3rd, we will also review the tax levy, and then the board will need to approve both of those items on June 17th. So right now, we're reviewing the timeline, the assumptions, the parameters, and then we'll have that budget book to you prior to the June 3rd meeting, most likely by the end of May. So just taking a few minutes to review what's going on currently in 24-25. So our foundation allowance, the biggest chunk of revenue in the school district's budget, we receive $11,484 per pupil. And if you recall, we get funding from various sources. So we levy that homestead millage or hold harmless millage on our residential taxpayers for $1,876 per pupil. The 18 mills generates about $3,434 per pupil, with the remaining coming from the state through state aid. So to break down revenue and kind of give you some percentages, our foundation allowance, as I mentioned, one of the biggest pieces is about 58.8%. It is made up of property taxes as well as those state funds. We have other state and local revenue, about 30%, and that's really all of the other state revenue that's in categoricals. So special education funding, at risk, adult ed, voc ed, all of that MIPSers or ORS, retirement money, literacy, bilingual, and then some additional grant funds. And then we still do have some preschool tuition, Medicaid fee-for-service, as well as interest revenue. Interdistrict, that is the countywide millage for special education, as well as voc ed. That's levied through Oakland schools and passed through to districts. So our federal revenue makes up about 3.4% of our total revenue. We have recurring grants, so all those ESSER dollars or the COVID dollars that we've been talking about for the last 4 to 5 years are officially done and spent. As Mrs. Weems said, there are districts where there's a big possibility that they're going to lose the remainder of their funding because they did not spend that money within the required time frame. We're given an extension, however, that was revoked. So we're happy to say we did spend all of our COVID money, our ESSER dollars. But our recurring grants, Head Start, IDEA Special Education, we have Title I, II, III, and IV, as well as adult ed funds. So obviously, this is the big question. Will these funds continue next year? There is that executive order to eliminate the U.S. Department of Ed. We just don't know right now what will happen with this funding. I feel good that we are able to possibly move some of the costs from some of these grants to other funds, other grant funds within the district. So on the expenditure side, salaries and benefits make up about 82%. Purchase services, the next largest item. And that really, some of the big items, custodial services, sub costs, software license fees, repairs and maintenance. Supplies, about 5%. Again, teaching supplies, textbooks, utilities, natural gas and electricity are a big piece of that, as well as fuel, tires and batteries for our buses. And then we have some other, about 2%, building and site improvements. We pay special ed tuition for some students to attend programs outside of the district. We continue to transfer dollars to capital projects funds and then some other miscellaneous costs. So some of the factors that we're using in our budget development for 25-26. So obviously our main focus is maintaining that high quality instruction and programming. So to focus on literacy specifically, over the last few years, we have implemented some new curriculum and new packages. So the EL Skills Block, which is our K-2 foundational skills program, and then Wit and Wisdom, which focuses on K-5 ELA. And then to focus on math, so we have everyday math that's at the K-5 level, and then you'll hear a presentation shortly after mine talking about the proposed math adoption for the middle school and high school levels, and that's the illustrative math. So a few other things, the technology suite of tools, so Lexia and Dreambox, which help support literacy as well as math, and there's many other technology tools that are used within the classroom, Video, Music Maker, and then professional development as well as instructional coaching. There's been a big focus on that. So we do have some continued strategic partnerships for innovation. You've heard about the work being done with New Network, that's at the middle school level, focus teaming as well. We're also working with Urban Learning, Leah McConaughey, at the K-12 level. And then one of the newer areas is Michigan Education Workforce Initiative, so MUI and Arizona State University. So there'll be more upcoming programs related to that in the future. So some of the things we took into account when setting these budget parameters and assumptions. So the governor did release her school aid budget at the beginning of February, and essentially provided increases for public school districts in the foundation allowance as well as other categoricals. So the House did release a budget about a month after that, and they only allocated about 75% of the budget that was available in the school aid fund. So I think there was about $20 billion available. They allocated $15 billion and really just focused on those big pieces, foundation allowance. But they left off many of the categoricals, actually all of the categoricals. And so this isn't one that we can really focus on at this point. And again, all three bodies need to come together to discuss those various budgets. We've been looking at enrollment projections, received those projections from Plant Moran Real Point. We've been considering the inflation impact on our current costs as well as where they'll go in the future. And obviously we want to present a budget that maintains a fund balance that falls within the board's policy of 10 to 15%. So in the 25-26 budget, where we're starting is we will keep enrollment flat. We have seen some small increases over the last few years. And so we feel keeping it flat at this point is our best bet. The foundation allowance, the governor did propose an increase of $392. The House did have a higher amount than that. If you recall last year, all of them had a foundation allowance increase of over $200, and we wound up getting zero foundation allowance increase. So trying to be a little bit conservative in looking at what might be reasonable. We are going to start with $200 per pupil, and as I mentioned at the beginning, we will be adjusting these as more concrete information comes out if there is time before we present this budget. On the categorical funding side, special education, We are increasing a small amount, about $500,000. So federal revenue, right now we are keeping those grants flat. We're assuming they're going to continue for this next year. Again, if anything changes, we will have to react to that and figure out where to go from there prior to the budget being in place. On the interdistrict revenue side, with the increase in property tax values, those property taxes that the county or Oakland Schools collects does increase, so we're budgeting about a $500,000 increase. And then we collect about $300,000 from the Nutrition Services Fund currently for indirect costs. On the expenditure side, right now, we'll keep wages and benefits budgeted at negotiated levels. We will build in replacement savings, so for 10 teacher retirements. So typically, when a more senior teacher retires, a lower paid teacher is hired, and we can recognize some savings. So 10 replacement savings are budgeted. The MIPSR's retirement rate, this was kind of a big thing that started last year, and we really didn't get clarification on this until about February, when ORS released the retirement rates. So if you recall, the state said they did not give us a foundation allowance increase last year because they were reducing the retirement rate by 5.75 percentage points. And that was going to be more advantageous for all districts, much more than that foundation allowance increase. Well, because of the way that they put that into effect, they wound up giving us additional revenue this year and still keeping that rate the same. They also reduced that 3% health piece that employees were paying into the system and indicated that if there was a need, the district would cover that in the future. Well, the district's now going to be covering that. So instead of having a 5.75% increase that's continuing forward into next year, we are only able to recognize a 1.45% percentage point decrease, which is obviously a huge difference. So that's about $3.2 million that we were anticipating reducing our costs going forward that we will not be able to now. So fringe benefits, we're showing a 10% increase at this point. Across the industry, healthcare costs are rising, and we have made some changes to our benefit plans in the current year to try and keep those costs in line, affordable for the district as well as staff. Utility and contracted custodial costs, we have about a 3% increase, and then we'll continue to transfer those funds to our capital projects, the Technology Other Projects Fund, as well as the Bus Purchase Maintenance Fund. So some of the current unknowns, so the House budget bill, as I mentioned, was released, but it's incomplete. The Senate has not released their budget bill yet, so that's still unknown. Obviously, we know what the governor proposed in February. When will the school aid budget be approved? We don't know, and it sounds like it's going to be further down the line than we've expected in the past. So the target was always June. It sounds like it's not going to be, until after we have to set our budget. But we'll continue to monitor that. Obviously, enrollment, we don't know what that actual number is until we get into the school year. So we're using our projections that we've currently received. Staffing, obviously that changes with those projections. And then the federal and state economies, excuse me. So some of the other unknowns. Obviously, we've heard a lot about tariffs in the last week, last month. we have started to see some bills come in with those tariffs on it. So we're monitoring that in our office to see what the true impact is. There's been talk of eliminating Medicaid funding. So again, we receive about $1 million in Medicaid funding that passes through from Oakland schools. So we'll keep an eye on that. And then 31A at-risk funding. Well, the governor's proposed an increase. Most districts are seeing a decline in the number of students that they're reporting as economically disadvantaged. And that was really due to the changes with COVID. Families were allowed to continue on a certain plan without having to recertify. Everybody had to recertify this year, and we're finding, decreases. Our student amount decreased about 16%. We've seen other districts such as Livonia decline about 27%. So that will mean less funding, even though there's an increase in at-risk funding proposed by the governor. So lots of things still to keep an eye on as we, start putting this budget together. And obviously, 2 months to work on this, and we'll update things accordingly. And I can answer any questions.
Thank you for that presentation, Mrs. Smith.
This is not a question. This is more of a comment. I will be meeting with a few senators this week and next week. If you can send some questions to me that I can ask them regarding education and what can happen, what we're looking for in Farmington Public Schools. Okay. Ms. Weems and I will be meeting with former Congressman Andy Levin this week on the 11th. So there's questions we can ask him as well. And your tariffs will be going into effect tonight at 12:01. Mm-hmm. So if there's any questions you need, if you can get them to me, probably tomorrow, because I will be meeting with some senators this week and next week. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, with the tariffs, that's going to be in negotiations, I think, for the next couple of months. So we'll, hopefully some of that will be resolved, and, we'll find that our costs will remain more consistent with current costs.
Mr. Hull.
Yes, question about when you were saying about for the poverty level or the ones that receive additional aid, it was a decline?
It's decline. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so does that mean that less people qualify, or they said
That's correct. Less people qualify now. What I read an article today that talked about during COVID, benefits were just extended to families for a 2-3 year period. And so you had those continuing families and then new people adding on. So the number grew for a lot of districts. With this past fall, every family or community member had to recertify themselves that they actually qualified for the benefits. And because the COVID rules went away, that number declined.
So did the I guess the standard, did it just raise, or either raise or lowered, but the person still made the same amount of money? Is that how that worked, or everybody just got richer?
No, I think it's more the qualifications than based on people's current situation, disqualified them from receiving those benefits. So they call it direct certification. So if you are eligible for, say, Medicaid or EBT benefits, you're automatically considered economically disadvantaged, and that provides additional funding for all schools, within the state for at-risk purposes to help support those students.
Maybe if anyone else is confused I think what I heard you say is that X number of people qualified for this category in 2019. And in 2020, 2021, 2022, no one was required to resubmit information to establish that they continue to, to be able to benefit from that. And so the level stayed the same and in fact increased because more people got to apply. And for the first time since COVID, people now have to certify. And so those folks that were carried forward sort of every year no longer get, all of them don't carry forward because they may not, they no longer meet the requirements. So income levels didn't change.
Correct.
Our funding changes because less people are in this category.
Correct. Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Dr. Turner?
There was a lot of things that you covered. Obviously, you talked a bit about sources of revenue, expenditures. You talked about your parameters, your assumptions, and unknowns. Currently, the board has a policy of a fund balance being between 10 and 15%. Obviously, a lot of things are going to happen and can happen and change for the next 1 to 2 months before you firm up, including there's outstanding collectible. I'm assuming that the assumptions are leading towards where we may be going to collect bargaining in terms of 82% still being toward those expenditures, particular healthcare costs moving at 10% clip. All of that to say, where's our current fund balance and what's your trigger to kind of get in front of the board if these assumptions and some of these unknowns place us in jeopardy of impacting our fund balance? Because obviously, we still have to operate in light of all of these impacts.
Correct.
My question was, where's our fund balance approximately right now?
It's at approximately 22%, so we do still have that healthy fund balance, which has accumulated over the last few years because of those COVID dollars. And so we are in a good position financially. Obviously, we've heard about other districts that have been surprised at going into a deficit or using a lot more fund balance than they anticipated. So we're closely monitoring all of this. You know, again, if we lose certain funding and we know that in the next few months, we will have to figure out whether we'll be cutting those positions, whether we have other grant funds that could support that. So, you know, we'll be working on that diligently to make sure that we're following that fund balance policy.
It just becomes an interesting exercise when 82% of your expenditures are in your salaries and benefits.
Correct.
You don't have your 18% of non-heartbeat attached expenditures that you have to deal with and still run the district. So, I mean, it's a Herculean task, but I wanted to know where we were fund balance wise, so I know how much of a cushion we have to consider as some of these shortfalls we have.
Yeah, I think the biggest, you know, on the federal side, the biggest grant where there could be, you know, some trouble would be the idea of special education funding. It's about $2.5 million, and we have all staff that are charged in that grant. And so if those funds were to go away, we'd have to make some decisions as to whether we're going to reduce staff or, you know, at this point, if we're going to continue with that and, you know, possibly eat into the fund balance a little bit until we can come up with a more concrete plan. So hopefully those federal dollars continue forward and we don't run into at this point.
We're already not fully funded for I.D.A.
Exactly.
Since inception, 50 years.
Yep.
Thank you. I had similar questions around fund balance. I think it's no secret that that is something that is top of mind to me regularly. Our fund balance last year was 22.65. The state average is 21.6 something. And we've had a conversation at this board table numerous times about whether we believe the fund balance between 10 and 15% is the right number. And for a variety of reasons, we haven't had the conversation at the board table about whether that continues to be the right range. No secret personally, me, Terry Weems, not the board, I don't believe it is. I joined this board when we were dangerously low at a 6% fund balance, and I never want to see that again. 5%, as a reminder to everyone, is the point at which the state decides to invite themselves in to be your emergency manager. And 10% just isn't good business. At 22%, we currently have about 30 days of working capital. So 10% puts us at less than 2 weeks of working capital. And in an environment where our funding is not secure, that does not make me feel comfortable, is what I'm saying, Terry Weems. So I think it will be important for us to continue to, in this budget cycle, be very alert to where our fund balance lands. For me personally, I'm not satisfied with something anywhere near 10%. And for me, 15% is kind of, makes me nervous still. Now, I appreciate that we have fund balance that should be reinvested into students, into our system. I appreciate that, I agree with that. But I am not comfortable going from 22% to 10 in a year. I would like to best understand how we're going to plan for lots of rising costs, right? People costs, healthcare costs, tariff costs, whatever. But I also want to make sure that we're making some room too for innovation. I'm really happy to see literacy in here. I saw K through 5. I'm really interested in understanding what we're doing 6 through 12. I loved seeing math in here, K through 12. Those are the kinds of things that I'm really interested in making sure that we're addressing, and I'm glad we are addressing them. I think it would be really helpful to review this in a bit more detail, and I know we will in our next Finance Committee meeting. I think that's all I had. Anything else? Okay. Thank you so much for the presentation.
Yep, thank you.
All right. We'll now move to secondary math adoption.
So I want to introduce myself. I'm Colleen Same. I'm the K-12 Math Science Coordinator. And Carrie Heaney is with me tonight. She is our instructional coach at the high school, at secondary. And so we're going to share with you the process that we've been going through, preview process that we've been going through for about a year now to recommend a secondary math resource for grades 6 through 8 and high school. So this will be, like I said, for grades 6 through 8 next year, and next year Algebra 1 and Geometry, with Algebra 2 coming on the following year, to give our students in the high school a little bit more experience with this type of learning in those 2 years, and then they'll get the Algebra 2 experience the year after that. So our current challenge is that our instructional resources we have in place are not meeting the needs of our teachers or the learning needs of our students. So we have done several curriculum experiences and learning with and restructuring with our staff. For example, our geometry courses, we've been looking at how do we make data and statistics a bigger part of that course. We've looked at common assessments for math, and through those through those experiences, staff has said they need a resource that's going to support these things. We've also talked about how our students need something that's going to support the type of learning for the careers that they're going to be having. So our action step was to get together a team of teachers and find a new resource or recommend a new resource that is problem-based and is consistent across our schools so that we have some instructional equity no matter what building our students are attending. We also wanted something that would build strong understanding of key mathematical concepts and procedures. And then we wanted something that specifically would work within our learning framework. We've been spending a lot of time over the last 3 or 4 years thinking about meaning making and transfer, and we wanted a resource that would support what that looks like in the math classroom, in addition to positioning and authentic tasks. So those were the key ideas we brought into our preview team. And since last May, our preview team has met. We've looked at 2 different resources. We have used these resources in our classrooms, and the team is recommending illustrative math, the new 360 version, which came out for middle school last year and will actually be brand new for high school this upcoming year. And it's through the publisher of Imagine Learning. This resource really focuses on a problem-based approach. So what this means is that students are working together collaboratively. They're talking to each other. They're listening to each other. They're learning how to communicate verbally and written about their math thinking, about the process of math. This is really setting them up for some of the careers that they're going to be in, because we don't know what a lot of the careers that our children are going to be in don't even exist yet. So we're trying to equip them in our math class with problem solving to help them with those careers. The teacher will be taking on a different role in the problem-based learning approach. They'll set the task up for students, make sure that students understand what's being asked of them, and then they'll be facilitating students, asking them questions, clarifying their thinking to each other, walking around to groups to make sure that they are understanding each other. They'll be listening to the way the students are learning, and then the end of the lesson will be taking the way students are learning and helping them to wrap that up into a lesson synthesis, which is what traditionally most of us experienced. Those big ideas in math will come at the end of the lesson now, after students have had a chance to explore. And then the resource also has some unfinished learning supports. So we have many students that have many areas of unfinished learning. So there's a diagnostic test in here for each unit that will allow teachers to say, a majority of my class hasn't learned this piece yet, and then there are resources within illustrative math that will help teachers to teach that content to their students. There are also some math language routines. These come out of Stanford, and they help students to engage in math. There are 8 of them that are incorporated into all of the lessons. An example is we have a 3 reads protocol where students read through the math task 3 different times to truly understand with a different lens each time, truly understand what that math task is asking. Carrie's going to share about an infogap, a routine that is in there that is pretty interesting and makes the kids think pretty deeply about a math concept. There are multiple assessment opportunities within this resource. So every lesson has a cool down opportunity where kids can share what they've learned and teachers can see what have the students learned and how am I going to adjust instruction tomorrow based on that. We talked about innovation and how important that is. So illustrative math was actually one of the reasons we moved forward with it, because it offered more opportunities for innovation. It puts math into a real world context. Algebra 2 students are learning about credit cards and learning about how that interest works. At the end of every middle school year, there's a unit called Putting It Together, where it takes multiple math concepts and puts them into these tasks for students, real world tasks. And we talked about how those could potentially turn into some of our new tech network projects, where students can really come into some application and how does this fit within Farmington and Farmington Hills. And then there's a technology component for students and teachers. So teachers are provided with slideshows, students are provided with the opportunity to engage with technology tools like Desmos, which is the calculator that's actually on the PSAT and SAT. So they'll be able to practice with that during class. So these were some of the highlights and the reasons that we moved forward with it. Carrie, who's worked very closely with our teachers in the classroom while we were doing this, can share a little bit more about what the math looks like.
Great. So as Colleen mentioned, the lessons and units in illustrative math are designed with a problem-based learning lens. These problem-based lessons provide students with opportunities to engage in authentic tasks. And these tasks support students in making meaning of the mathematics that they are learning. It allows students to connect with the mathematics and see the mathematics as more than just manipulating numbers. The lessons and tasks in illustrative mathematics are supported by research-based instructional routines that encourage students to think critically about the mathematics they're learning. And so there are several examples up there. So for example, the card sorts and the which 3 go together have students look at content focusing at how the components are both interconnected and separate, and then determine ways to actually communicate with each other, what they're noticing and how they're seeing these details fit together. The notice and wonder and info gap routines are examples, or excuse me, ask students to think about information that has been shared with them while also considering what additional information they need. So the info gap routine is cool in the sense that one student actually gets all the information about the problem, the other student gets the question, and then they have to work together to ask questions. And, so I might say something like, oh, I really wish I knew what was the average number of students in this classroom, if that's what the question was about. And then the student with the data would actually say, well, why would you want to know that? And then that student then justifies why they want to know it, and then they exchange the information and share that information with each other and solve the problem together. So it really gets students not only thinking about, oh, these are all the things I got to do something with, but why do I want them? Because that's true problem solving, right? When we get into the real world and have to figure something out, we need to know why we want to know something, and how we anticipate it will help us. While these instructional routines are designed to support students in thinking critically about their mathematics content, these tasks and instructional routines also support teachers in keeping student thinking at the center of the learning. The intentional design that I.M. puts into its units of study, lesson flow, and placement of instructional routines allows teachers to connect to the learning that students are doing, and then think about how they can build upon that student thinking to deepen the mathematical understanding and knowledge that they're asking students to develop in their classrooms. All right. As Colleen mentioned, we met together as a group on the preview team talking about lots of different things that we were noticing in the resources that we were looking at. And one of the things that came up in all of our conversations was that the teachers kept saying, the students using this resource in my classroom now seem way more engaged than last year when we were using the current resource. And so one of the wonderings that I always have when I start hearing teachers talking about it is, how are the students would the students communicate that same thing? And so we actually asked the students towards the end of our preview experience to describe to us, how did learning math with this textbook make them feel? And we asked them to do it on a scale of happy to sad, but then also asked them to share what it was, or why did they rate it the way that they did. And when they responded, there were definitely some themes that showed up. One of the big themes that showed up was that students felt supported by the resource because of the organization. They felt the resource had strong organization. They felt that the structures, like the lesson summaries and the ability to write in the workbook, the color coding that was on the pages that told kids whether it was an in-class lesson or maybe a practice set, and then also the color images throughout helped them understand the math that they were learning. In addition, students mentioned that as they were doing this, the tasks and the structures felt different. And that while this was different from their previous experiences, that once they had the moment to adjust, they actually were able to understand the math and feel successful. And even when they encountered challenge, they knew that they could do it. So we got the feedback from students that also aligned, that gave us some thoughts about it.
So the purchase includes teacher's editions, which I'm going to pass around 2 samples just so you can see. These are not the entire teacher's edition, but rather samples. And so physical teacher editions, there are workbooks, and like Carrie said, teachers and students are actually loving these workbooks that they have, because they can do all of their work and keep all of their work in this workbook. So we will have that for 5 years. Algebra 2 will be for 4 years, since we'll be holding off a year to implement that. There will be digital access for teachers and students for 5 years. The 3 of the courses will have material kits, because there's so many extra materials that they need that we will be purchasing those for them. So they will have those ready to go with consumable and non-consumable pieces. And then the purchase will also include professional learning materials and facilitated sessions. And then the last piece, we just wanted to give a shout out to our preview teachers. You can see that we had teachers from all of our buildings with the exception of Central, but because they only have 1 teacher, it was a little difficult to have her be part of the team while she was doing many other things. And we also had, I want to give a shout out to Angie Zaley, who it's assistant principal month, so I wanted to give a special shout out to her, but she was the admin that was part of our team and spent time away from her building with us because this work was important to have her voice as a part of it. So what questions do you have for us?
Questions from board members? Mr. Hall?
So for the type of methodology that your guys are implementing, more of like a peer-to-peer type of learning slash the teacher's now more like a facilitator or a consultant type of thing to help them work through that? Is that how?
For most of the lesson. At the end of every lesson, though, the teacher's job is to bring together all the student thinking and make sure those big ideas and that learning goal is stated for kids, so they reach it. So instead of doing it at the beginning of the lesson, which is like a traditional math classroom, they do it after the kids have had a chance to explore and make meaning of the math on their own, and then the teacher brings it all together with them. So there still is like that traditional, if there was an equation they needed to learn, like y equals mx plus b for linear, that would still be discussed at the end of the lesson. So that's still part of the lesson.
But the problem-based tasks allow students to really dig in and make connections to what they're learning and care about it, so that when they do get...
Can you step to the mic?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Just so that when the students, so they're digging into tasks and having a reason to care about the tasks, so that when the teacher does go into that last part where they are summarizing and solidifying those key concepts, the students have a reason to dig in a little more and hold on to it because they see the purpose of it.
Any further questions? I had a few. I want to definitely hear from the math teacher.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions. So this is a 6th grade teacher's guide. Usually when we're asked to approve textbook adoptions, we're given access to the textbooks. So I'd like to see the textbooks you're going to use in middle school and high school.
And so you can see some of the student pages in the teacher's guide there. So they are listed on the columns.
This is 6th grade. I want to see all of it. Will you make that available over at central office? I'll go and look at it.
Yes, we don't have physical copies of it right now, but I can give you digital access.
So if you don't have physical copies, how have you been previewing it, or I want to know, you have a big group of teachers previewing, so have they just previewed specific lessons? Have they been previewing the course? What's the preview process?
So the high school, the version you have in front of you is the IM 360 that came out from middle school this year. The high school previewed the IM 360, or the IM, the original version. The IM 360 is coming out next year. That's why we don't have physical copies right now. The only difference is the teacher supports. The lessons are exactly the same within the two resources. So we don't have the physical copies of the new ones, but I can show you the physical copies of the current ones that teachers are using. I can have that for you.
Okay, thank you. So this is 8th grade. Is this a student book, 8th grade?
That's still teacher.
This is still teacher. So to answer my question, I don't think you've answered my question. So number one, let's take high school, Algebra 1. Have you teachers been previewing this in Algebra 1? If so, have they been using the student textbooks? Have they been previewing it all year, or have they just done specific lessons?
They've been previewing all year since the beginning of the year.
So you do have the student textbooks for Algebra 1?
Yes, I can have copies of that.
So, yeah, that would be helpful to look at, to see how that's going, and to see what they're doing. And then the same thing, then you have students, so how many, you have a lot, so how many Algebra 1 classes do you have, and how many Algebra 1 sections have been previewing it?
So our team was actually split in half because we looked at two resources. So what you're seeing up here, half of the teachers did one resource and half of the teachers did the illustrative math that we did. And the way it worked out, because we had to decide these last year before schedules were done, we didn't have any Algebra 1 teachers looking at this particular resource. However, all the teachers on this team have dug into this resource when we've met together throughout the year. There are 2 geometry teachers up there and an Algebra 2 teacher who did this particular resource.
Okay. So they've been using it all year. They haven't been using the traditional algebra.
Correct.
So they've been doing this all year. So what type of additional support do the teachers need to implement this program?
So we have, the additional support is, a lot of it centered around classroom culture of how do we set up an environment where kids are listening to each other and talking to each other. And so that's a lot of the support we have planned throughout the year. We have 4 release days planned for next year. In addition, geometry, there has been some significant content shifts that we have not explored very deeply. So we're going to, in geometry, be talking about how do we teach through transformations. That's going to be a big piece of the learning for the teachers next year, too.
Okay. You talked about unfinished learning. What's unfinished learning?
It's, instead of saying gaps in learning, it's the learning that they just haven't finished yet from other grade levels. So it's just unfinished.
So the teacher does the unit, gives a test. The students that don't pass the test, then they qualify those as unfinished learning.
More of a teacher gives a test at the beginning of the unit. Let's say we're doing a unit on linear, and she finds that her students aren't strong in integers yet. So she would do some learning with students about integers or about fractions within that unit to help set them up for learning linear.
So, okay, so now this brings the next question. Let's talk about integers. You know, there's a lot of problem solving and things like that, but are these resources going to need to be supplemented with actually teaching the skills used to do the problem solving?
The skills are taught in here. We have talked about how there may be some supplements with things like Dreambox or using some, it's very easy to find extra problems out there in the world right now, so out in the internet. So there might be some pieces for extra support in doing some of the procedural pieces. Yes, we've talked about there may be a need for some supplementing in that.
There may be, or there is a need?
There is a need.
There is a need for supplementing, okay. And so what are your plans to provide the supplements? So here's what I'm getting at. Instead of the teachers going and looking for all of these additional problem-solving things, you're adopting a problem-solving course, but where are the basic skills and what are the resources for those?
We are exploring Magma Math right now as a resource to help with that. That is something that we are piloting within K-8, well, K-12 right now.
All right. I had a note, you talked about math language routines. So can you emphasize or expand a little bit about what are math language routines?
So math language routines are different ways that we can support students in engaging in making sense of the mathematics and not just, like Colleen mentioned earlier, this 3 reads routine. So Stanford University did research about different language routines that would support students in learning mathematics, support students in acquiring mathematical knowledge and engaging in mathematical vocabulary and things. So the 3 reads is a tool where, like an example of one where students would read through a problem. And we know a lot of times when students look at a story problem, they read the problem, and when they're done, they look at you and they're like, so what do I need to do? Where the 3 reads protocol actually supports students in developing a way to think through and process through those problems so that they can read through it and be like, oh, I do understand what I'm supposed to do. And the way that works is that teachers would put the task and the problem in front of students. They'd ask them to read it. The first question is usually, all right, what do you notice about the details? What do you notice about the context? What's just jumping out at you in general about this problem? Students would then read it again, and you can read it whole class, or you can have students read it individually, teacher can read it. And this time they might look for key mathematical ideas or key mathematical concepts as they read through it. So then you're charting, you're putting that information up for students. And then the third time you read through it, you ask students to read through it anticipating what the question is. They've got all this information. What do they think the problem's going to ask them? What would they like to know in addition to it if this is what indeed is being asked? And so it really helps students synthesize all the information on the paper and gives them a tool that they can replicate in future problems to go through and solve a problem.
Okay, all right, I didn't mean to, hijack your presentation or anything, but I would appreciate if you send over to Margaret Henderson the resources that you're actually using, an opportunity. I'd like an opportunity to sit down and actually look at the program and see the whole thing, and maybe a little bit more feedback, I think, would be helpful from the teachers that are actually piloting the program as far as, how it's working in the classroom and things like that. More, I mean, you gave us the highlights, obviously, but I see it as a huge shift, a big change, and I'm just really interested to making sure that all the staff is on board and, talking to, obviously you, the experts in the field, as far as the support that the teachers are going to be needed, and how the pieces of the puzzle fit together with the things that we're doing in terms of student achievement and college readiness too. I'm kind of looking at, I picked my grandkids up from school today, and my grandson's in 8th grade, and he's like, we were taking PSAT practice, sort of thing. So I know as a teacher, the things that are skills that we talk about. We don't want to emphasize teaching to the test, but our school district is rated on how our students perform on the test, and so I just want to really look and see how these things are tied together. And so I would just appreciate some time and opportunity to sit down and look at that. So thank you very much for bringing that to us.
The teacher feedback piece, the board brief, I believe last week, there's some teacher videos linked in there. There are some testimonials by the teachers that have used this resource.
Okay, yeah, and there were a few little comments and things, but you have a lot of teachers on there, so yeah, I'd like to, maybe delve into that a little bit more. So thank you.
Mrs. Smith, and then Dr. Turner. You could do Dr. Turner first.
Thank you, and I'll be brief. I won't ask multiple questions. I'm going to ask a question, and then I'm going to ask for some additional information later. I know that when we look at textbook adoptions, the main reason is obviously to enhance student learning and efficacy as it relates to aligning the current standards and things of that sort of nature, and also to improve the pedagogy and things of that sort of nature. So my question would be, where we are currently with the textbooks that we currently use, which has led us to move towards an adoption, what's the genesis of it, right? And not that we'll have guarantees, but can we anticipate a period of review with these new textbooks that we adopt, maybe a cycle in 4 years or so, and then would we review and then determine if we need another adoption or another change in approach? And you don't have to answer now. That's what I'm thinking, so I'll channel that through the superintendent, and then so she'll forward it back to us, and we can share with the community at that point. But that's what I'm thinking. Like, why do you do it? Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. I just have one question. What are we doing to help the parents, help the students? Because if you look at the book, you all know, the student may know, but if a student has some struggles, what are you doing to support the parents that would look at that and would not know what to do and how to do it? Thank you.
So currently, I can say right now, one of our preview teachers has been using, there's a YouTube resource that has some videos that have been made that she has been giving those to parents to help explain what's going on in class.
Okay, thank you.
I had a few questions that if it feels like it would be better to just submit in writing, First, I really appreciate the real-world math problems and questions, and I think it's important for students to, be able to apply what they're learning to real life. So credit cards and mortgages and all of that sort of stuff. So kudos on that. I heard you say that you've noticed improved engagement. That's the feedback that you're hearing from teachers. And I think some of my colleagues mentioned this as well. Do we have any data on whether the pilot resulted in improved learning or achievement for students? So do we have a comparison, let's say, of formative assessments as an example, where students were having difficulty, understanding concepts, and now as a result of this, we're seeing a difference? That's something I would be interested in. And so you can respond to that at a later time. I was also interested in understanding how this fits into reimagining high school. So I'm very interested in making sure that whatever shifts we're making, that they align with our overall sort of vision and strategy. And in particular, I'm glad to see that there's a focus and some time built in there to help students who may not have gotten the concepts and the basic foundational math skills in order to make sure that they're going to be successful in these classes. We're providing some opportunity to go back, and I forget what the term was, but I'm also interested in understanding where there are opportunities for our advanced learners to, further progress. And so I'm trying to understand in my vision of what high school might be, you could have several differently abled learners in the same classroom, and it sounds like some of them can get some of this previous unlearned information. They can work on that, and I'm assuming that there's like the core group that is on task, but I'm sure that there's also this group of students who need further learning and acceleration, and so I wanted to make sure that there was room for that. And then finally, I think, or maybe this is a penultimate question, I noticed in the materials that you mentioned that there's like some work packages or something like that, kits, I think you mentioned. Is that the same as the student print when I'm looking at? So that's different. What I'm trying to get at is I'm trying to understand, when I look at the total cost for this, how much of this is one time and how much of this is ongoing. I couldn't tell from what I was reading.
So the ongoing is just the workbook. The workbook will be the ongoing piece, and that we are going to do a 5-year subscription for. So that's going to be the ongoing cost.
And maybe in a question I can submit, I'd like to know what the cost of that ongoing is, so that we know what our comprehensive costs are. We often approve things and we find out later, we renovated the space and now we need to buy, millions of dollars of furniture. Like, whoa, wait, Thank you. I'll submit those questions in writing. Any further? Okay, but can I just give myself a time to write a note? Ongoing costs. Okay, thank you for your presentation. Oh, and just as a reminder to everyone, well done, ladies, books are available at central office. Whenever there's a new textbook adoption or curriculum of any kind, we make sure that those are made available at the district's office for review, for parent review, for any community member who's interested. And so we'll be looking for approval for a curriculum adoption today for AP History. Those books have been made available for the entire month since we first looked at this in March 12th or whenever our last meeting was. So I wanted to make sure that people knew that. Thank you. Our next topic is marching band purchase.
I am actually staying up here for that.
Okay.
I'm speaking on the behalf of Margaret Hendrickson. She's at a conference, so she asked me to speak for her. She has worked very closely with the two band directors at the high school for this rain jacket purchase. As we talked about earlier in this meeting, we have a long-standing music program, an outstanding music program here in Farmington, and that includes the marching band. So there are 2 band directors at each school, each band having its own style, fitting within their community. And There's also the opportunity for students to be part of this marching band starting in middle school now. And so many then can commit from middle school into high school. They're performing at athletic events along with competitively. And we have about 200 students who participate in the marching band in grades 8 through 12. So the proposal is for new rain jackets for both the Farmington and North Farmington marching bands. The current jackets are about 20 years old, which is about the lifespan of a rain jacket. So it's time due to wear and tear for new ones. The new vendor, or the vendor, is Francis Enterprises, which is the regional rep for Stanberry. It is part of the consortium, so this is consortium pricing. And you can see these are pictures of mock-ups of what the rain jackets would look like. And I'm not going to read through all of this, but you can read through and see the specifications, what's specific to these particular coats. And so the cost is up here for North Farmington and Farmington. The total cost up there does not include shipping and handling right now.
Any questions from board members? Dr. Turner?
Just quickly, approximately how many jackets?
About, the number.
Maybe said it may have been
200 students.
It's 200 students.
each school
No.
or total?
Altogether.
Cool, thank you. And I know you said where the vendor was. Are they local by chance?
I'm not sure about that. I can ask Margaret.
I'm just trying to anticipate that shipping cost on 200 jackets from where?
Yeah, and I was just trying to think through, like, I purchase rain jackets all the time. I don't know what the difference is in a marching band rain jacket. I appreciated the specifications and some of that that you have there, and I can see it in my board packet too. But when I was doing, just a quick look, I'm trying to appreciate or understand, like, what should this cost? Are these branded? Do they have our logos and stuff? Okay, so that makes sense that would add to the cost. Because when I'm looking for a rain jacket, a really good quality one, I'm thinking maybe it's $100, $150 max. When I do the math on this, it's about $200 a coat. And so I appreciate that branding probably adds to it as well. But you guys have done like a procurement or use this consortium, which is meant to get you the lowest cost. Mrs. Smith?
I'm looking at the price. Why is North Farmington's price cheaper than Farmington's?
Page 66 and 67. They're ordering more at Farmington than North Farmington. So the numbers aren't equal.
More students at Farmington.
Yeah. 180 for Farmington and 150 for North.
I missed that part. Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
Oh, so it is 200 per
school? They have the invoice in the board packet is 180 at Farmington.
And 150, yeah, I see that.
And
I believe part
150
of
at
that
North Farmington.
is sizing too. They want to make sure they have a good variety of
that makes
sizes
sense.
available, not knowing what sizes students will need.
Okay, that makes the cost, but that makes
Typically
sense.
some extra inventory.
That makes sense, okay.
Are we ordering extra just in case we have, okay.
Yes.
That's good. Thank you. And thank you, Trustee Heinrich, for that clarification.
It was in the board packet.
Any more questions? I know, Ms. Heinrich, you had some questions that you submitted in writing.
I did, because there was a difference in the invoices, and so, yeah, it was specified on one and the other, and she got back to me with that. So thank you for clarifying that. And so there was one of them charged an art fee and the other didn't. And so she said that it was just one art fee for both schools. And then they had the sizes listed at North Farmington, but again, they're having the variety of sizes at Farmington High School also. So, and my daughter was in marching band, so, they have a variety of sizes and shapes of kids, and they issue, I think, I don't think she had one to keep at home. I think they pass them out as they need them, but, yeah, it's a good investment, so I don't have a problem with it.
Any other feedback? I'm completely supportive as well. And shameless plug, I would love for some of our other athletes to, or not, or team members, to also be protected from the rain. And I'm talking about the track team, please, thank you. Okay, that's enough.
Track folk don't use raincoats. Okay.
Not raincoats, tents.
You don't do- well,
They do.
We don't do that.
They need it.
We don't do that.
Yes, they do. Okay.
We're not built that way.
Moving on.
President Weems?
Yes.
One more question. What are we going to do with the old rain gear?
That I can find out. I can find out.
Never mind, it's okay.
You did say they were 25 years old, right?
Yes,
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
it's
They are
okay.
20-plus years old.
He answered the
Yes,
question.
Yes.
Okay.
Moving on. We're going to move, thank you. We're going to move now to the review of recommended policy updates, and I'm going to ask Dr. Turner to help us walk through. And thank you for posting those up on the screen so that everyone can see what we're talking about. Dr. Turner?
Yes, yes. Give me 2 seconds. I want to prepare my screen so I can see. Thank you.
I have it printed out if that's helpful.
Have it printed? Well,
Oh.
be able to see. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. I beg your pardon for 1 second. All righty.
Take your time, Dr. Turner.
Thank you. So typically, as the board brings policies forward, we would have an opportunity in policy committee to discuss them, review them, and then bring them to the board for a first reading. This will supplant that process and bring the reading and the discussion to this august body tonight. There were a few modifications and changes that were recommended out of policy updates from Miller Johnson, and if we can walk through them, we should be able to have a good conversation around them. We have several series of policies and supporting administrative guidelines, and we're talking primarily today about certain series. So in this series, the first series, and if you're moving with me, Ms. Scripture, we're at Series 2000, which pertains to our students, if I'm not mistaken. And we're going to jump right in as it relates to policy 2006. This will be update 19.01, which deals with behavior. And in this regard, we're recommending modifications and changes and updates to the personal electronic devices policy, more commonly known as the cell phone policy. A number of districts have taken actions and moved their perspective as it relates to not just cell phones, but personal electronic devices, which includes tablets, cell phones, and the like. Our current policy, and it may be in small print, you can see it there, the changes in red and the changes in blue. Red would indicate new language being suggested to the policy. Blue would indicate where we are redacting or striking language from the policy. And as it reads in front of you this evening, we would include cell phones, personal laptops, smartwatches, and other wireless device connections to be defined in our personal electronic devices, and also to include away for the day requirements where they were not in place in our prior policy. We're recommending that they are. And the policy would read as such: students are not permitted to use personal electronic devices during the school day unless required by law. Personal electronic devices must be turned off and kept out of sight in lockers or cubbies. And then further, we add language that the superintendent would develop administrative regulations that are consistent with this policy.
Ms. Hyrick?
Is this required by law, away for the day?
No.
Okay, so I wasn't on the policy committee, but can you help me understand how you came up with away for the day requirements? Because, so I guess my question is, this fall, I actually did a presentation at the MASB conference and studied the new cell phone policy in the high school, in the middle school that was implemented this year and rolled out, that was developed for the high school with the input from the staff, and for the middle school, which are two different policies, and they are not in alignment with this policy. And so My question is, have you talked to the high school administration about this policy?
Dr. Turner?
Looked at the policy that's currently in place, or looked at the policy that's currently in place in the buildings?
I'm going to go ahead and take that one, because Dr. Turner wasn't here when we did that, one, I don't think. And two, these are all recommendations from our policy organization or attorney. They regularly, twice a year at least, give us a summary of all of their policy recommendations based off of required law changes and/or based on their assessment of what's going on with all of their clients. They've got hundreds of clients, many of them like Miller Johnson or Throon, and this has come up multiple times. So they're recommending to us, if we choose to adopt a cell phone sort of banned policy, this is what it could look like. We don't have to accept this, but this is their recommendation based off of what they see other districts doing, and in case we want to adopt a more restrictive cell phone policy. So this is not necessarily recommended by the policy committee, it's being recommended by our attorney.
To be clear, and let me restate, Trustee Heinrich, what we would typically do in committee would be to discuss the recommendations that have come from Miller Johnson and determine if we would want to carry it forward. So again, we didn't do that in policy committee because we didn't have an opportunity to. And as these come as recommendations from Miller Johnson, that doesn't mean that we're going to carry it for them, but it does come as a recommendation for them to consider if we want to modify and or align our policy. Thank you, Ms. Williams, but that part I was ready to jump in on. But this is what we would do now, which is discuss, well, we think it applies, it doesn't apply, and perhaps we want to take it back for additional study, perhaps we want to take it out to the various levels in the district to determine if this is something that they have an appetite for or find a need for. But Miller Johnson is making a recommendation. We have it. We can consider it. This is what our adjusted policy would look like should we bring it forward for adoption.
So what are we doing right now? We're discussing it right now. I mean, because normally it's like, this is the first reading, we have a discussion, and then you have the second reading and vote on.
Correct.
So at this discussion right now, can I say to you, you need to go and talk to the high school administration about this away for the day policy.
Yep.
And see if it's going to work in our high schools and if it's required by law and if what they're doing right now is working and if they want a more restrictive policy.
I think the first thing we need to do is figure out whether we want to reopen the conversation. I think that's the first step, right? Because if we're not interested in opening up the conversation, then we don't need to have a conversation with
correct
building principals. So I guess the question to the board is, we had a policy, to your point, Mrs. Heinrich.
Have a policy.
We have a policy. I'm sorry, we had a policy before. We changed our policy, sometime in the fall? Before school started, I believe. We changed our policy and restricted cell phone use to before and after the school day and lunchtime and you're right, that was based on a lot of discussion. We had some parent forums, I remember, on cell phone usage. We had some discussions with teachers and principals. There was a lot of work done to understand what the buildings felt like they needed, and I feel like we had a policy for elementary school and a policy for middle school and high school. And so I think that the feedback I've heard is that that's helpful, that's helping, and now the question is, do we just want an all-out no cell phone, period?
And this comes on the tail of the research and the data that Miller Johnson collects. Many states are taking actual legislative action to change cell phone policies in schools. Some districts have done it on their own. And ahead of that, they have prepared for us and their other clients to say, hey, listen, this is what is being considered across our book of business. It's in front of you now for consideration if your board so chooses to bring it before itself to consider. So that's where we are with that one.
And so just what I hear Mrs. Heinrich saying is, in order for her to feel comfortable, she needs more data. She needs more information about how it's going. Which is
and in that data,
point.
it may ferret itself out if this would even be a consideration that the board would continue to walk forward with based on that feedback. So.
Now, what I'm saying is I thought our board policy was that the schools would develop a cell phone policy for their buildings rather than dictate what they're going to do. Because you can have.
That's not what our current policy is.
So I thought that was in our, I need to go pull my, so you're saying that the blue stuff is what's in our policy manual?
Correct, right now.
Okay, so before and after, during the lunchtime. Okay, so that's the new policy that the high schools rolled out this year. And in the middle schools, they really do have the away for the day.
I think it's elementary. I'm not sure about middle school. I'm
Yeah, and in
pretty
middle
sure,
school, they're not allowed
yeah.
to use them during their lunch hour. They're not allowed to use them at all during the school day. Just because did a thing on them, and so I had the high school policy and the middle school policy that they rolled out. So they have to be powered off and kept out of sight, whereas in the, because they invested in the caddies and things like that. So what Miller Johnson is recommending is a more restrictive policy and taking away the discretion of the people working in the buildings with the students. But that's where I have the problem. I have a problem saying to the administration, you must do this. I want to say, what do you need in order to make the school day, which, talk to your staff. The staff said, we need the cell phones put away during class time. And so they were comfortable with that, and they developed a policy with that. And so that's something that the staff was invested in, and so therefore it's going to be enforced. If we can write a law, we can write a policy, but if your staff's not invested in it and it's not enforced, then it's only as good as the paper it's written on. So I really am hesitant to just roll out an away for the day policy.
That's fine. This again, is how we promulgate policy. And adopt. This is in front of the board to determine if there's consideration. Trustee Heinrich has made a great point. We can introduce it should the policy committee, which of course this is now a policy of the whole, because we're not in committee. If this doesn't come out of committee, it doesn't come forward to the board for recommendation. So we can take this back and determine if there's appetite for it. And if it's not, then it sits where it is. We have a policy. You have a question?
Yeah.
So is this more like a discussion right now, as in?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Are we going to adopt this so we can vote on it, or is this like adoption on, if we're going to, take it back in committee, like you said, and discuss this? Or are we discussing our opinions on, or our reasons on if we should adopt this or not right now?
So let me circle back to the beginning in terms of how we typically move policy forward. This would typically come to policy committee where we would discuss it. The committee would then bring it forward as a recommendation to the board for first reading. There will be questions, there will be concerns, there will be considerations, much like Trustee Heinrich has raised. If the board still satisfied that our thresholds, whatever they may be, it would come back to the board for second reading, vote, and adoption. However, this did not get discussed in committee itself, so I have brought this forward as a committee as a whole, so we're discussing here. To your same questions, this is where you would ask your questions, much as Trustee Heinrich has. Hey, what has the administration felt about it? Hey, how would this impact? What would be the implementation? When would we change it? All of those are good questions that we would ask and then develop if we wanted to continue to move. If there's reticence on behalf of the committee, in this case, the committee of the whole again, then it may not move forward at all.
Gotcha.
So if I might add to what Dr. Turner said, yeah, we're operating as a committee right now and having a discussion about this. If this were in committee, we'd probably say, you know what, we don't have enough information right now to bring this forth to the full board as an action item.
Okay.
We're having the committee discussion right now.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're not about to make a decision on this right now.
No, and we would not generally do that for any policy. Usually we have a couple of readings first.
Gotcha.
In addition to having a discussion at the policy level. Sometimes some of this stuff sits at the policy meeting for for months before it's actually brought to the full board, but we didn't have an opportunity to do that. And some of these are law changes, so we decided to bring it all to the board because some of these need to be acted on.
Any additional questions on that one? All right. We'll continue to move forward. There's a section in here that should not be included, which is section 5,000 for business, which includes an area for ISD, so we're going to move past that and go right into Series 6000, which considers Policy 6002, Safety and Security, as well as the update that is being brought before this committee board at the same time for Update 19.03, which deals specifically with behavioral threat assessment and management team interventions, formerly included suicide intervention in that policy. The recommendation that you see in front of you, again, the same protocols are in place. The blue language is being stricken. You'll see a strike through there. Red is being suggested language to the policy. Again, this is a recommendation that aligns with the governor's recently signed legislation that enhances classroom safety for students and educators by establishing a behavior threat assessment and management team. And then there's further discussion around what the team's monitoring and behaviors and implementation of support services and measures looks like. The district must implement the noted provision by October 1st of 2026. So we have some time to consider it still to make sure it conforms, one, with the law, and also two, our construct and how we have promulgated our policies in the past. As it reads in proposed form is behavior threat assessment and management team. The superintendent will develop a behavior threat assessment and management team, including duties aimed at addressing situations which may pose a threat to health, safety, and welfare of themselves or school community pursuant to MCL 380.1308E. The goal of this behavior threat assessment and management team is to take appropriate preventative or corrective measures to maintain a safe school environment, protect and support potential victims, and provide assistance as appropriate to any student or staff member being assessed. Again, this is a change in law. There's an adoption requirement that we have, and we do have a little bit of time until October 1st of 2026 for the board to fully consider it. Questions?
Yeah, why are we taking out suicide intervention protocol?
Again, with the broadening, my understanding, and with Miller Johnson's assistance, that what they have done is look at every policy that may have had suicide or other types of prevention strategies in place, and they have aligned it to what the recommendation is through the governor's passage of her specific law. And so this aligns is what it is. It doesn't discount, obviously, that threat assessment would include suicide, but it broadens it and aligns us with the law so that we are not as broad as we need to be. So it's more inclusive than just suicide, but suicide in addition to other threats and other behaviors. So there's a desire by board members to determine if there's a possibility or a way to have additional identified threats included in the provisions and the changes that are being recommended. We can take that back. I would assume that they would want the more inclusive language and the less focused language.
So suicide intervention is a more narrow, and so by taking it out, it's included in all
That would be the understanding.
all health and safety and welfare of themselves or the school community. So it's included in there.
That would be my understanding.
Okay.
Yeah, I was having a, like for trustee Heinrich was saying, with the, taking out the word suicide intervention, making it more, I guess, inclusive. I'm thinking, well, are we discussing the policy language right now, or?
Sure.
Okay. That my opinion would be that we're hiding, I guess we're hiding a condition that's very like, that's an emergency, and if we're burying it in, management team, I'm thinking it's not going to get that much of attention to something that's something that needs to be acted upon like immediately, or to help prevent. And that is that's my concerning. I don't want just to be broadened, as a somebody who's just feeling down or have some negative feelings, but to actually an action that's about to take place. And that's what I'm more concerned about.
Duly noted. So with this one, what I would recommend to the committee, obviously, is that we just reach out to Miller Johnson and determine what flexibility we may or may not have as it's written, and the other policies that I've seen with them in the years that I've been dealing with them, where they recommend the district must implement the noted provisions by October 1st, 2026. It's indicating to me that this must stand in place. Now, that does not prohibit us from creating or promulgating additional policy that may speak specifically to suicide or any other specific area that we may want to amplify on. But this may be required as a measure of law that be adopted pretty much in whole. But we'll seek that clarity, and if it is such, we'll bring that back. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chair, I actually, what you said kind of triggered something for me. I remember when this policy was amended maybe a year or two ago, and because I remember having the conversation actually at this board table about the inclusion of suicide intervention, and there being some concern around the school district's responsibility with respect to suicide intervention and identification. I think ultimately we landed with and had a conversation with Miller Johnson about what was required by law, and our policy was developed based on what was required by law. So I love your suggestion of going back to them on this topic to see what is included, what is required by law. And I would be a proponent of not adding to it where that's not required.
Any additional questions on 19.03?
I am a person that suffers with depression. And I happen to have no problem with the way the attorneys have this listed. Because when you suffer from depression or suicide attempts, you don't want to bring attention to the families or to that individual. As it stands, as Ms. Weems, President Weems has stated, these are conversations that we have had over several years. I, being on this committee under the great leadership of Dr. Turner, when I first got elected to this board, a lot of the questions that you have and that you brought to us, I appreciate them. I love a dialogue. And I love the transparency that we have here tonight. But we have had conversations with community members, administrators, and all of the above. We just don't go and just put a policy in without having those discussions. As far as removing the word suicide, it does not mean that we are not going to work with a student or a staff member that suffers from this particular subject. As we know, during the winter months, we do have those things happen in our community, unfortunately, whether they are students or staff. But you do not want to bring that attention to anyone, to shame anyone. So with me personally, I have no problem with the wording on this. It does not mean that this district will not continue to do their due diligence about this matter and to work with our police departments and with the community, city councils, whatever, But I have no problem with the wording.
Thank you. We'll still consider the course that I indicated, which is we'll verify what's there in terms of language, and I appreciate the feedback from the board and the committee in large. Moving on, we're going to move to 19.04. Again, this is, the impetus is based upon the governor's recently signed legislation aimed at protecting students from gun violence by mandating that information on the safe storage of firearms developed by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services by July 1st of 2025 be distributed to parents of students by districts beginning October 1st of 2025. So we have an adoption and we also have a distribution requirement under this provision of law. And every October 1st thereafter. So every October 1st, there's a reminder requirement that districts must perform to under color of law. Now, this is an expansion of this policy. The word generally was added to the first introduction of the existing policy, and then the entire second paragraph was added, which is the safe storage of firearms. Beginning October 1st, 2025, and every October 1st thereafter, the district shall distribute by electronic or mail information regarding the safe storage of firearms developed by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services to the parents or legal guardians of each student enrolled in the district. By not later than October 1st of 2025, the district shall post links to the Michigan Department of Education's web pages describing the English, Spanish, and Arabic versions of the informational notice on the website of the district. Any questions?
This is required by law, so we have to add this.
Indeed.
So it's just in the wording as recommended by Laura Johnson, so it looks like it's something that we need to adopt. I'm okay with it.
Any other comments? No? Okay. We will move on to the update for 19.05, which is Policy 6004, School Crisis Response and Closure. Again, on the impetus of the governor's recently signed legislation that requires a standardized response terminology be used by schools in response to emergency situations developed by the Department of State Police. By July 1st of 2026, the district must implement the standardized response terminology beginning with the 2026-2027 school year. As you can see in this update, existing policy is the first paragraph, and then the red underlined is the second added, which will beginning with the 2026-2027 school year. The district shall adopt and implement the standardized response terminology developed by the Department of State Police in collaboration with the School Safety and Mental Health Commission. And then the rest of the policy picks up where it was. Are there questions about this one?
I think we're already, Allison Robertson spoke about that as far
She
as common language and everything. So we're ahead of that.
Yep, and this is just a policy that conforms with the law.
Okay.
All right, we're going to move to, I'm sorry, are there any other questions, comments? All right, then we'll move on to general policies, which is the 8,000 series. We have an update, which is 19.6. The policy in particular is 8,002, Americans with Disability Act, commonly known as ADA, and Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, Section 504, as commonly known. We've seen some dramatic increases in districts seeking policy statements for therapy dogs. Such animals are different, of course, from service animals, and there's a distinction between therapy dogs and service animals. Service animals, which are expressly addressed in the ADA, of course, we provide for and we follow appropriate policy language and administrative regulations for. But for districts that are utilizing therapy dogs at schools, the following policy update and accompanying administrative guidelines and regulations noted in Update 1910, which may not be up yet, is recommended for adoption. Now, this is a recommendation. It is not a requirement under law, but this is something that we wish to include. As you can see in the existing policy, hopefully, the added language is at the end of the policy, which is the district permits the use of therapy animals in a manner consistent with the administrative regulations developed by the superintendent. In that policy, you also see some highlighted sections, which is where we would insert the names of the individuals that the superintendent would appoint should this policy be adopted by the board. Other questions? Hearing none, I would respectfully cede my time back to the chair, and this is where we are. This
Thank you very
considers your
much.
first reading?
Yep, consider it the first
Questions
reading.
and answers for the...
Thank you very much. Appreciate your work. We will now move to our second public comment. If there is anyone who is interested in public comment, please speak now. I see one person coming. Thank you, Mr. Francis.
Alrighty. Good evening, board members. I want to start off by saying that Hackbots have officially qualified for Worlds. We leave next Tuesday, and we are very, very excited about that. The state of the robotics team is very, very strong. For the past 5 consecutive seasons out of our 15-year history, we have made it to the world competition level, and we're extremely excited about that. We also have a lot of younger members who are stepping up into leadership positions and are going to lead us into the future where we hopefully continue on that trend. With that being said, it is also getting more and more difficult to get these younger students engaged with the team and excited about robotics, with some of our facilities not being up to the current standard of many other districts. One of the things we are noticing as a robotics team is that other districts who have implemented their own STEM facilities or practice fields tend to have much, much better abilities during competition. And one of the best examples of that would actually be our neighbors, Livonia. They installed a STEM facility just 2 years ago, and this year they won 2 robotics competitions and ranked within the top 25 out of all 600 teams in Michigan. So we are seeing that direct correlation. And similarly, there are teams in Michigan that have lost their STEM spaces, and they have seen drastic decreases in their ability. I don't exactly remember the district, but the team NC Gears is a great example of that. They lost a great amount of their space due to a lack of funding from their district, and for the first time in their team history ever, they were unable to make it to states that season. So that correlation does exist, and is why I'm in here every single time advocating for these STEM spaces. I know there are discussions right now, but the quicker we can nail something down and actually start moving dirt, the better, because we want to bring in more of these students and make sure that we're being sustainable as a district, not just as a robotics team. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further public comment? Seeing none, no further public comment, we will move on to our next item, which is an action item related to the U.S. history textbook adoption. Is there a motion? Mrs. Heinrich?
I move that the Board of Education, the textbooks were presented at the March 11th meeting. So we had an opportunity to look at the books and preview and see the presentation. I move that the Board of Education approve the recommended textbook adoption for AP US History as presented. The textbook cost is $15,636.50 per school for both Farmington High School and North Farmington High School.
Support.
Motion has been made to approve the recommended textbook adoption for AP US History as presented at a cost of $15,636.50 per school. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, may we have a roll call vote, please, Dr. Turner?
Mr. Ho?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Heinrich?
Yes.
I myself, yes. President Williams?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We will now move to the consent agenda. Is there a motion? Mrs. Heinrich?
I move that the Board of Education approve the April 8th, 2025 consent agenda as follows. A, approval of minutes. Number 1, March 11th, 2025 regular meeting. Number 2, March 11th, 2025 Finance and Facility Committee meeting. Number 3, March 13th, 2025 Policy Board Governance Committee meeting. Number 4, March 15th, 2025 Board Retreat.
Support. Motion made by Mrs. Heinrich, supported by Dr. Turner to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes. Are there any updates from board representatives? Yes.
Yeah, I have the Oakland County School Board Association Board Representative. Last Wednesday, there was a meeting at the Career Center in Oakland Schools Technical Campus in Clarkston. Mr. Hall, you were there. Do you want to talk about, did you tour the facility? Do you want to talk about the facility and?
Yes. So last, I believe it was Wednesday, that we've, myself, Dr. Coffin, and Dr. Blau visit the Oakland, call it Northwest Oakland Tech Center that's located in Clarkston. And in that facility, there's a whole bunch of different skill sets that you can actually learn, such as culinary arts, agriculture, tech, as in like cybersecurity tech, and also with automotive tech and so forth. And the directors were saying that how many times that it was actually, how many people with the students that actually went through the program and how well they're doing, such as he brought up an electrician that went through the program, and he's now working for DTE, and he makes very well into six figures right after their training program. So he said it works. It's not instead of college, is basically, it's for people who want to go to school as well as college and get the degree. So they're trying to make that not a either or, but a more of an and. So it was very impressive. We was served dinner by the students of the culinary arts, and it was absolutely delicious. And they told us how they actually raised everything and how they procured the ingredients and made everything well. So it was a very, very good opportunity to learn about the CTE programs in the county.
Yeah, and there's 4 technical campuses, and so our students in Farmington actually go to them, and I think it's in
Royal Oak.
Wall Lake?
Royal
Royal
Oak.
Lake.
Not Royal Lake.
Yeah, I thought it was Royal Oak that we would go to.
Yes. Yeah, Pontiac, but there's one in, I think we're the western one, sort of. Yeah, but anyways, but we can go to any of the campuses. Yeah, and they get dual credit for courses towards graduation. So it's a good program. Also, we just had policy updates and things that we're going through. The Oakland County School Board Association has bylaw amendments and amendments to adopted resolutions that are going to be coming out to board members. And then we will have to discuss those and vote on those. And so I will get that to you as soon as they come available. And once they're sent out, we'll have 45 days to vote and return the ballot. So we'll have to make sure that we schedule it onto the board agendas.
Thank you. Yes?
Yep. So with, I want to announce that the Farmington's Men's and Dads Network is going to have official launch this Friday at the BLVD brunch, lunch, vibes dinner at 28595 Northwestern Highway in Southfield. What this network is about is bringing dads and people and men of the community together to discuss about certain topics, to help out how they can actually help in the district as to make a stronger connection with each other and to be able to do some positive things in the area.
Thank you. Any other updates or board representatives? No? Okay. I gave my update earlier today on the student roundtable, so if there are no further updates, I believe that brings us to the end of the agenda. We are now adjourned.